I'm Jennette Cross, and this is the Fiber Factor Challenge 4 Express Yourself. This is the knitting machine challenge. In my one-by-one video with Josh, we talked a little bit about where my design came from and where I wanted to go with it. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about how I'm going to get there using the AliExpress. I know I also mentioned in that video that I have to have shaving. So the first thing that I wanted to do when I got the machine was to figure out how am I going to really use it to its best advantage. And for me, it really likes adding one stitch on a side, or you can add one stitch on the other side as well. But for the way that I like to knit, I like to have a little bit more freedom than that. So I decided I was going to take what I like to call the Captain Planet approach, let our powers combine, and do a combination of a tiny bit of hand knitting and then being able to really take advantage of the AliExpress the rest of the time. So let me show you what I'm talking about while I knit a sleeve with a cap. For this piece, I started casting on by hand, did a few rows that way, and then put it on the machine. Zoom ahead. Now I'm coming to the point where I want to take the work off the machine again, just for a couple of rows because I want to add more than one stitch per side. To do that, you knit even for a few rows past the point where you actually want to stop, then take the yarn out of the carriage and crank 2 turns worth, which releases all the stitches. I find that putting the stitches back on the needle is easiest if I'm in the middle of ripping back, so then I rip back to the place where I want to be a little bit more exact. That's all the shaping done, so I'm going back on the machine to knit straight for a while. In this case, I'll finish the ball of yarn and then put the work on a holder so I can see how much yarn I have left. I'm not going to bind off until almost everything is finished so that I can make things the length that I want them. It could not be easier to start something on the machine, take it off, do a tiny bit of hand knitting, and put it back on again. It makes the whole challenge incredibly flexible and spontaneous. Now, in that vein, I had very specific ideas when I was talking to Josh about what I wanted to do with the yoke, and it was complicated and going to be very cool. And I still think it would be cool. But after our conversation, after the filming part, we talked a little bit more about it in depth, and I started to think maybe I wanted to do something different. So I've been thinking about it since then, and that honestly is the cool thing about this challenge. With all the other ones, you're on such a time crunch that you make a decision, you have to go with it immediately because it's going to take hours to do. With this one, I have a little bit of time to think about it. Most of my knitting is done. The time on the machine is less than 5 hours. Shipping isn't for 9 days. I have some time to think. I'm going to go do that.